Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for being here. You know it's a Northwestern event when you see Bill Brent back in the room smiling and beaming. Merry Christmas, everybody. Well, it feels that way, doesn't it? It's kind of like Christmas morning for football coaches and football fans, National Signing Day. And we also are going to meet new members of our Northwestern sports family and the whole football staff. A very exciting day. You didn't come here to listen to me. You certainly came here to hear all the good news we have to share. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge our President and First Lady, former high school football quarterback and offensive coordinator Chris Maggio, and Jennifer. Jerry Pierce, who was here when they wore leather helmets, our Vice President of External Affairs. And the Grand Demon who played without a helmet, Johnny Emmons. At this time, I want to bring to the podium our Director of Athletics, who is, and I'm not taking this as an omen, except maybe there is finally some hope for the Cleveland Browns after so many years. And the Demons have not gone through those struggles, but we're looking for better days too. So maybe the Browns colors can channel some good, tremendous things for the Demons as well. Our Director of Athletics from nearby Cleveland, Greg Burke.
Thank you, Doug. Great to be here. Really appreciate everybody. I know that Brad and I have talked about this before, but our fans, y'all are tremendous. You hang with us, you stick with us, you cheer for us. And I also think I'd be remiss if I didn't point out as I look around the room, and I think this is a testament to our department, how many coaches and staff from our department are here. I know that means a lot to Brad and his staff, but that's what we're all about. That's what our department's all about, the internal support, the family. We're always there for each other. So I really want our coaches and staff to know that I appreciate you guys as well. I think the reason I'm up here mainly is we always take pride in the fact that when we do, as an example, Fall Sports Media Day, most people do football Media Day. Well, we do fall sports, and we include our cross country, our volleyball, and our soccer teams. Once again, we're all about each other. Well, today is, as everybody knows, Football National Signing Day, but it's also the day when women's soccer signs their recruits. And I know a few folks in the room have met our soccer coaches. Many of you have not, so we thought this would be a great opportunity for you to hear from them. I will tell you that the day we played Stephen F. Austin in football, which I believe was November 18th, and it was a great day. And Chief, it's great to have you here. Everybody give the Chief a round of applause. But as I'm waiting for that game, I'm sitting in my office and I get a phone call from Marcy Jobson. Marcy and her husband, Paul, are the coaches two of the coaches, soccer coaches at Baylor University, and she called to tell me that I would be getting an application that week from another married couple, Jess and Anna Job. And Anna had worked for Marcy and Paul for 5 years, and was a three-time All-American at Mobile College, and she was working at Dallas Baptist because she had met and married the associate head coach there, Jess Job. And Marcy was just calling to tell me that these were going to be very good people to consider. And she used phrases such as work rate, everything they do has a purpose. They're about building young ladies, not just as soccer players, but as young women, role models. She specifically said that if you hire somebody else, I guess they're co-head coaches. You got to do that in Louisiana, but Jess is kind of the head coach. Anna's the assistant, but she said Anna will knock the socks off of anybody else who you would have as an assistant coach if you hire somebody else. Well, long story short, we went through the Skype interview, we went through the personal interview, and our goal with our women's soccer program is you got to get in the tournament. Then anything can happen. That's the case in most of our sports. You can get that NCAA bid, and we haven't done very much of that lately, and they know that, and that's the challenge. And they've come in less than a month, and when they interviewed on Skype, they said this. When they interviewed in person, they said this, that to make the change that needs to be made, our student athletes are going to have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Stop and think about that. They have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Probably some of the same things that the football coaches are saying to their staff. It's been a few weeks. I will say we've had two, as you all know, two previous co-head coaches, married couples. They've worked out really, really well. I think between those two in a few years, they went to 4 postseason tournaments between volleyball and women's basketball. So had good success there. And we feel equally good. I feel equally good about what's going to happen with our women's soccer program. They're signing 10 young ladies today, and they had to get to know them. They didn't, soccer, some of the soccer, so y'all know soccer, they commit in their sophomore year, sometimes in their junior year. So these coaches they still are getting to know their 10 recruits. So they may talk about them a little bit, but I thought it'd be a great opportunity for them to talk to you about who they are and what they're all about. So at this time, it is my pleasure to introduce our co-head women's soccer coaches, Jess and Anna Job.
Well, thank you, Greg. That's quite the introduction. Hope we can live up to all that hype, but we are really grateful to be here, really honored to have the opportunity to share a little bit today. We know this is a big event both for our program, but also for the new direction that the football program is going to go in, and we're really excited also to hear what Coach Laird has to say and learn more about the direction that they're taking their program. But we wanted to share a little bit about the direction we plan to take ours. And first of all, want to thank Greg Burke for giving us this opportunity, Jerry Pierce, Dr. Maggio, all who had a hand in trusting us with this responsibility of taking the program to new heights and to new levels. And we're really excited about the opportunity and really excited to share a little bit more about who we are and the way that we plan to kind of go from here. So we've got a great foundation to build off of. I feel really great about the support. I'm really thankful for the support of the administration, the university, the community, and everything has been tremendously positive for us. So we're just really grateful for what we have to work with, and we're very optimistic about the future. We've got a hardworking group of returners who are highly motivated, looking at this as a fresh start for them and an opportunity for them to prove themselves under new coaches with a new opportunity to revitalize their own career as well as the team. They've responded very well and we're very happy with them. It's also been tremendously helpful to have a returning staff member in Alexis Cable, who's returning as our staff, as our graduate assistant, and really been helpful in helping us make the transition, aiding the players in making the transition, and just getting a really good handle on the pulse of the team. Today's exciting. We have 10 incoming 2018 prospects, 9 of them signing today. One of them is here early. She's on campus already as a freshman and with our team right now this spring. We feel great about this class. As Greg said, we are still getting to know them. There's a lot we have to learn about them. And a lot still we need to discover. However, we've had some great conversations with their club coaches. We've had some great conversations with them individually, and we're very familiar with their background and their pedigree as far as the clubs they come from. So we feel really positive. This might be an understatement, but they're going to be extremely important to us this next fall. At this point, looking forward to our roster numbers. They're going to account for just about 1/3 of our roster size. So a huge number of players to be introducing to our fall season at a very important time of our program. So we are really excited for them to be here. We're confident that they are going to come in motivated, just as motivated as our returners. They're going to bring a higher level of work rate and a growth mentality. That is something that we will challenge them on right away, and that's a big part of who we are, is we want to coach their mentality first. And Anna's going to talk more about that. But we can't wait to get going, and we're just really grateful to be here. But I have the very unique opportunity to work alongside my wife, one of my best friends, and I'm just really excited to be able to do that. And Anna, she does so much for this program. I'm really grateful for the way that she supports the team, the way she supports me, and most importantly, the way she supports our student athletes. So she's a tremendous mentor to them, and I'm just really grateful to have the opportunity to work alongside. That was just such a unique part of the draw to Northwestern State, was that being an emphasis for us and something that we were going to be able to do together. So we're very excited to be here. Thank you so much for allowing us the time to share a little bit. And I want to introduce to you my wife, Anna Job.
Thanks. So I only have about a minute and a half, so you guys need to listen fast, okay? There's a quote by Tony Dungy, and it says this: "Champions are those that do the ordinary things better than everybody else." The idea is it's the small and the seemingly insignificant things that add up to be part of the growth and can impact growth the most. And I shared this with our girls last week in our meeting, and it really just sums up what we've been up to the past month. And creating a championship culture starts with that, doing the little things really, really well. And that's where expecting excellence can add up over time. And that's things like making sure you go all the way to the line. Don't cut it short. That's when you're getting into a huddle, getting your hands in tight and speaking with unity and with passion. It's off the field. We believe in what's called the 22 principle, that you train for 2 hours a day, and it's what you do the other 22 that make the most difference when you step onto the field to get your 2 hours or your game time in. That's nutrition, sleep, hydration, self-investment. All of those things are things we've been really busy and actively engaging with our girls to make sure that they can are the best that they can be, and that they're the best athlete that they can be at the end of their time or during their time here, and they're also take the steps to be the best student athlete, the best person that they can be. And so that's what we're about. This is the culture we're committed to establishing here, and like Jess said, our girls have responded really, really well, and we've been really pleased at the effort and the attitude and the intensity in which they're doing what they're doing. This is the culture we're looking forward to bringing our signing class into and integrating them into, and we're really, really excited about that. I could ramble up here forever about all the different stories, all the things that we're up to, but we're going to be hanging out here after this is over, and so if you want to introduce yourself, we'd love to meet you. We'd love to share more stories and explain more about what we're about, but my time is up. So thanks so much for the opportunity. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Al. It was a February day in 1991, and we were all gathered together to celebrate Demon signees. There was this little quarterback from Ruston High School. He was pretty good. Turns out he was real good, and now he's our head football coach. Bradley Pierre Laird, our head football coach.
Thank you, Doug. And, first of all, good luck to the Jobs. I've had the opportunity to meet them several times, throughout this process, and look forward to seeing the future of Northwestern State soccer. But first of all, just looking out amongst the crowd, thank you. What a crowd. To take time on a Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday lunch, to get away from work, to be here as we talk soccer and we talk football. But the thing that we want to look at, we want to look at the 25 young men that we're having the opportunity to bring in as we talk about the future. But first, before I do that, I want to talk about a little bit about the process, because this process was a little bit different of a process than as we move forward. And I say that because, you got mid-year signing date, which as far as JUCO kids, junior college kids, that's always been the case. But now you add high school kids to that. But we were in the process at Northwestern State hiring a staff. And so on December 18th, when dead period started all the way till January 12th, we're in the process of hiring assistant coaches, and so we were able to do that during that time period. But when I say dead period, that means we can't go on the road recruiting. So the only thing that we can do is look at what we're going to do in all three phases and look at 500 plus student athletes on film, which is great. But the problem with that is you don't have the ability to sit down with them face to face, which is part of the recruiting process. To sit down with their coaches, the counselors, their families. Do they fit not just as a football player, but as an individual to come to Northwestern State to be successful, not just on the field, but off the field? So fast forward to January 13th. As I went through the process hiring a staff, that was the first time we could get out on the road. So you take basically 3 weeks of recruiting, and I got to tell you about this staff did an unbelievable job. From the miles that they traveled to their families moving, and I'm not going to say anything about Liddell Love, but his wife driving a U-Haul, pulling a car 14 hours by herself to move, to other individuals sleeping in the field house, in their offices, and in the same time recruiting. Did a great job throughout the process, and it's just a small window. It's a small window to get in the homes to decide if those guys that we recruited fit into the mold that we want at Northwestern State University. So at this time, I want to introduce the staff, some new faces, some familiar faces, and as they stand, coaches, please remain standing, and then hold your round of applause. Dan Korn, Director of Football Operations. Austin Jacobs, Graduate Assistant, Running Back and Tight Ends. Nick Campbell, Graduate Assistant, Linebackers. Will Anglin, Graduate Assistant, Safeties. Taylor James, Graduate Assistant, Cornerbacks. Jamal Lewis, Graduate Assistant, Offensive Line. Alec Osborne, Assistant Defensive Line Coach. Coach Jared Mott, Strength and Conditioning. Coach Anthony Selfo. Coach Anthony Selfo comes to us from Texas San Antonio. You've probably read, if you follow the Southland Conference, his dad, probably within the last week, was named head coach at Southeastern. And Anthony had a few choice words of what's going to happen when he gets to face his dad. That was good to hear. Coach Alvin Slaughter coaches the receivers. Coach Slaughter is one of 3 on staff that have been prior head coaches in some form or fashion. Coach Jay Pond. Coach Jay Pond coaches the offensive line, comes to us from Texas High, but also Trinity Valley Community College, where he was with Coach Smiley for 7 years. Coach Liddell Love, a former Demon, bringing him back from North Carolina Pembroke. Coach Devon Lockett, another former Demon, will coach the corners. And I know I left out 3, but I'm going to get to them in just a minute. But let's give them a round of applause. Just a quick breakdown. One thing I talked about, we have 25 that we signed. We talked about the mid-year signing date where we signed 4 junior college young men. And for this signing date today, we signed 21 high school kids. So you look at those 25, the coordinators will break them down specifically. But the thing is, you look at the 21 high school seniors that we signed today. 1 we can't mention right now, but 8 out of those 21 are from North Louisiana 318 area code. And that's one of the things that as we looked in to the recruiting process, we're going to recruit the best football players. And there's good football players in North Louisiana, 4 specifically in the Shreveport-Bossier area, 1 in Manny, 1 right here at St. Mary's here in Natchitoches, 1 in Monroe at Richwood High School, and then 1 at Rayville. So we're excited not only to get those 8 here, but also what it's going to bring within a 90-mile radius here to Northwestern State University, where there's already students that are enrolled in school that are just normal students, and now we bring some guys from the athletic realm to this. So very excited about that. Of the 25 that we signed, 20 of the 25 were 2-sport or more stars in high school. Well, you say, why is that important? It's important for a lot of reasons. And I take a quote that Coach Lucas says a lot, is they compete, year-round. Not only do they compete year-round, but they're surrounded, at each sport that they go to, there's another head coach. So there's another personality that they got to deal with. Guess what? When they come here, they're going to deal with different personalities amongst our coaching staff. We don't coach the same. We coach for the same goal and the same reasons, but we handle each kid differently. And they've already been through that process. And that's the thing that's really encouraging to me. A couple of them are four sport stars that the coordinators will talk about. So really excited about that. But without further ado, I want to introduce the three coordinators, and first talk about one that's very glad when it was probably about 9:30 today, and we already had 25 of the commitments in. A lot of things that goes unnoticed is exactly what the recruiting coordinator does. Got a lot of help from our staff, but as far as organization, the official visits that we go through, and when I talk about the official visits, he's going to do a lot of the thank yous, but it starts with Dr. Maggio that talked to each recruiting class and talked about the 5 pillars of the university, all the way down to our player panel that sat in front of those parents and answered questions and talked to them about different aspects of Northwestern State, not just a starter, but those that had to go through a redshirt year, because those parents want to hear how do we handle them during those redshirt years. But in everything in between, I tell you, our official visits were awesome. And it's because of the people of Natchitoches, it's because of the people of Northwestern State. I truly believe that. But without further ado, recruiting coordinator, Coach Jake Olson.
Kind of like Coach Laird said, he talked a lot about the recruiting process. One thing we wanted to sell, a lot of schools can sell a lot of things. They can sell their facilities, their academics, and things of that nature. One thing we wanted to sell was our people. And I think if you asked a lot of the families throughout their times on the visit, I think our people pulled through for us. That was a lot of the comments we got was, the ability for them to meet people on campus, the ability for them to interact with people in the community, and I thought that was huge. So as we say thank yous, we're going to say thank you to some of those people. I think the first big one we got to say thank you to is our players. We tasked them with the duty, the job to find guys that would fit in, that want to sit next to them in the ready room and find guys that would be good teammates. Through the exit interview times with Coach Laird and the families, I think that was one thing that was consistent was, how appreciative and how thankful the parents were of what our players did for their kids. And I thought that was big time. So that's definitely the first thank you. The next one, Dr. Maggio. Just like Coach Laird said, it's not very often that, prospective student athletes on visits get a chance to meet the president. And even when he wasn't there, he, filmed himself in his speech, and we played it for everybody, which was huge. So Dr. Maggio, thank you for that big time. Mr. Burke, the athletic director, spoke about the vision of the athletic department every Friday night, so that was definitely big. Mr. Gerald Long for being a part of it and being around this morning too as well. That was big. Jody Bisco, Jody Bisco's a guy that's always been in our corner and done a great job kind of connecting the academic and athletic side of it as far as for the prospective student athletes. Mr. Randy Price, coming to talk about the FCA program. I think that went a long ways with a lot of our student athletes. The hotels was always crazy, but Miss Haley helped us out big time. Jay and Lauren Sharplin were big for that. As far as our meals, Johnny Cock, Mercy Beaucoup, every Friday night, getting some good Southern food was always good, and him getting the chance to speak as someone of the community, prospective student athletes was big. Vance Howe at Sodexo did our Saturday morning breakfast along with our breakfast this morning at Signing Day event that we had. Jenny Wascom at Dickey's provided lunch for us, Corwin and Justin Aldridge and Mamas for Saturday night dinner. Katarina Harmon, Taylor Whitehead, and the rest of the recruiting girls gave great tours for us. We're always flexible with how many people we need, from 6 to 7 guides to 3 to 4. They're always great with us. Caitlin McCann and the academic staff, getting a chance specifically to sit down with guys at meals and talk to them outside of just their normal speech that they would give. Ashley Leggett and the athletic trainers, Jared Mott and the strength and conditioning staff talking about the new future weight room that's going to be built, and just have a lot of excitement that our guys have about our strength and conditioning program. Joe Tolbert and the equipment staff definitely did a good job It's always big with recruits to see the gear and to try that kind of stuff on, so he did a great job with that. Tori and the marketing staff, you'll see some videos up here, and you may have saw them on social media today, of our guys that when they signed that we released. You know, that was big with the guys. They go crazy about that stuff, and that was a huge hit. You know, along with Kelsey Gilbert, made the graphic pictures, and I bugged her a bunch these last 24 hours to get those done, so it's definitely a big thank you. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame was this place that we went to that was awesome. I mean, unique building to Natchitoches, you know, gave a lot of history on, you know, obviously Louisiana sports, but Louisiana in general. You know, and it was another one of those things, just like the people of Natchitoches, that we wanted to show is unique to us here in Natchitoches, so that was definitely a good experience for our prospective student athletes. Doug Ireland, Jason Pugh in the Sports Information Department. You know, hopefully we made the job a little bit easier, and they do a great job of supporting us and getting the information that y'all are reading and seeing out on Twitter. You know, I can't tell you, you know, even from my family not being from here, their ability to keep up with the program is definitely a big thanks to those guys. Couple last ones. Dustin Eubanks with the compliance. You know, sometimes it gets a little hectic with who's coming, who's not coming, and him having to do paperwork. That was big for us. Mike Jacklich and Mike Doty for setting this up, you know, and then kind of the unsung hero, Miss E. You know, Miss E keeps us all in line and keeps us straight over there and makes sure our lives don't get too crazy, so we don't say it enough, Miss E, but thank you. Then the coaching staff, you know, Dan Korn and his wife do a bunch for us behind the scenes, our graduate assistants. You know, sometimes go unnoticed just from myself, Coach Laird, and the staff. We appreciate you guys big time. You know, but again, you know, there's probably more people to thank along that way, but that was one big thing that, you know, we thought was important to show our recruits. And I think when you talk about going from 500 kids to narrowing it down to these 20-plus signees that we have, I think they're coming to Northwestern State because of the people that we have. So that was big for us, and we just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Now let's, as we look into these 25 signees, I want to introduce offensive coordinator Brad Smiley. Go back to 1996, sharing an office with him here at Northwestern State. Him going on 7 years at Tulane, with the last 11 years being the head coach at Trinity Valley and having a lot of success. But, you know, when I talked about Coach Slaughter, having 3 guys on staff that have head coaching experience, and he's one of them. Glad to bring him back home and talk about the offensive signees. Coach Brad Smiley.
Thank you. Oh man, it feels it's fun to be back in this room. I went to prom in this room, so it's pretty unique. And a little bit before that, I remember being here for my mom and dad were both finalists for the Natchitoches Man and Woman of the Year. So it's awesome to be in this room again and to see a lot of friendly faces and a lot of great people that have meant so much to myself and my wife Jana, growing up here in Natchitoches. So we couldn't be more fired up. Coach Laird, thank you for the opportunity. And couldn't be more excited about today. I got here in December, officially, right after finishing up the bowl game and everything, getting an opportunity to get over here for a couple days. And I tell you, walked into a room where Jamal Lewis, Austin, these 2 guys had list of offensive guys, I mean, just tons of names, and we start watching film and pairing through it as we start putting together an offensive staff with Coach Laird. So those guys did such a great job and were such a great help to me to handle through this process. So we're fired up to be here. I tell you what, we got some outstanding kids. This is one of those deals where we're not just going to take anybody. We don't just take bodies. We want ball players. We want guys that can come in and help us. We need explosive playmakers. We need big, physical, nasty linemen. We felt like going into this whole process, we just needed to upgrade our talent as far as our athleticism and our speed when it came to the skill kids on offense. And we needed to bring in some length and some size on the offensive line. So I'm fired up about these guys that are all here and ready to roll. So the unique thing, the way we did it, is, you know, with myself and Coach saying, look, hey, short-staffed, you know, short on time, you know, you got the offense go, and then when Jay got here, Coach Pond, hey, you got the lineman, I'll take the skill, and then Coach Slaughter was in and Coach Selfo was in, and we were able to pare it down. But what we came to, I mean, go ahead, Coach, just right off the bat, just starting with the local kid. He was committed when we got here, and when I cut on the film, I couldn't have been more fired up to watch him play. He is an unbelievable ball player, Aaron Howe from St. Mary's. You know, here's a kid who's been, I believe, 3-time All-State. He's led his team to the Dome. He's a winner. And when you look at his not only All-State, but he's been the class, you know, he's been the classifications MVP on offense for the last 2 years, which is incredible. And I think before Coach Aldridge got there and Justin, before they started spreading it out and running some things, when you watch him, he was like a wing T H-back, somebody told me today. He, you know, he's one of the wings blocking and getting after it and being physical. So you just watch what he brings to the table as far as his, you know, his skill set. He can run. And you know what, I think we're really blessed because of he's got a very tight-knit family. He and mom and brother are extremely tight. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why we got to keep him here. I think this kid could have gone probably anywhere he wanted, especially inside the state of Louisiana. But, you know, he's 6'2", he's 210, 215 pounds. He plays basketball. And for you basketball coaches in the house, I don't know, I'm sure you've noticed his sophomore brother, 6'7", who I've tried to talk into going back and playing football, which he won't play anymore, so, yeah. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. But Shelton Epler, you know, Shelton is a kid that we signed at Trinity Valley. Shelton, if you look at his bio, and I'm not going to read it, I know you guys can read for yourselves, but, you know, Shelton was a 3-time All-State performer at Navasota High in Texas. He won a state championship. He set the national passing record his junior year with 71 touchdowns and 5,444 yards in one season. Absolutely lit it up. Touchdown Player of the Year in Houston Club finalist nearly every single year. And, you know, his stats that junior year blow me away because there's a lot of kids in this that never have careers that reach 5,400 yards and 71 touchdowns. And for us, he was just, you know, he came in as a freshman last year. We felt like we weren't going to have to play him because we had a couple guys, but he was just that good that he just every single day, it's like, you know what, this kid's got something to him. This kid's got something to him. So about game 4 or 5, we decided to, you know, pull the shirt off of him and play him. And he rotated with another Division I signee last year. And as a freshman for us last year, threw 15 touchdowns, no interceptions, does a great job taking care of the football. This year, he starts off, he's our #1 guy. He's the preseason going to be everything. He's the best player in the conference. It was going to be a slam dunk. He throws 3 touchdowns, runs 2 touchdowns the first half of the first game of the year. We're blowing this team out. He's getting 1 series because it's game 1 of the 3rd quarter. Big fat D lineman falls on him, broken collarbone. So he gets up the next play, throws a touchdown, and then we're like, he comes off the sideline, something's wrong. Yep, he's out for the next 6 weeks with a broken collarbone. So he comes back game 7. He only plays in the first half. We learned our lesson. We scored 42 points in the first half. He throws 4 touchdowns, runs 2 more touchdowns, and quick hook, we get him out of there. So in the equivalent, when it's all said and done between the halves that he didn't even play in, he played about 6 games this past fall, and he still finished 2nd in the league in touchdowns and yardage passing. Shelton's a great kid. He's having a blast. He's already here on campus. He's having a ton of fun. You know, Mr. Randy, we were talking about him earlier, hadn't missed an FCA on a Tuesday night yet. He's just an outstanding kid, outstanding family. His brother's AAA with the Pittsburgh Pirates organization. He'll be called up to the majors this year. So it's just, he's a great addition. And it was awesome for us to be able to have an opportunity. As soon as this thing went down, I looked at him, and he smiled because he knew exactly what I was thinking. And I started, you know, we come off that bowl game, and I hugged his mama, and I said, hey, we need to talk. So yeah, we were blessed to get him in here in December. So next up, Jaquan Jackson, to me, probably one of the top 3 running backs in the state of Texas this year. Jaquan had just shy of 3,000 yards rushing and 48 touchdowns this past year, and they did not even make the playoffs. That was 10 games. I think one of our coaches said, geez, how many points did they give up on defense, right? So, yeah, exactly. But Jaquan is an outstanding playmaker, runner-up for the Class 3A Player of the Year in the state of Texas with the Built Ford Tough, but he was the 3A Player of the Year. But the Built Ford Tough runner-up between another kid from East Texas, but had an unbelievable season. Like we said, you know, 2,900 some odd, 48 touchdowns. He's also a sprinter. He tells me he's going to win the state championship in the 100 meters. I say Northwestern's got a great history of sprinters that are running backs, so we would love to have you. Class kid. He got an opportunity. Just a quick story on Jaquan. When he'd taken his couple other visits, he had our visit coming up this last weekend. And because of the Player of the Year banquet, we couldn't get him in a couple weeks before that. So he has some teachers at the high school that love him. He calls them his other moms. He's got 2 teachers at the high school that absolutely love him. And they said, look, if you're really serious about Northwestern State, then instead of you, I know you're going on a weekend visit, but you need to see what it looks like on the day-to-day class operations. So I was supposed to see him on Tuesday, and I get this text Tuesday morning, Coach, you think you could come back another time? Because I'm actually going to Natchitoches today. So I'm already over in East Texas, kind of throws me off. So I'm scrambling. Hey, we need to make sure we get him tours and all this. But the teachers had called ahead, got the tour set up, came down here with the recruiting office. They showed him campus. They actually went to the psych department because he's a psych major, and he got a chance to meet Jody Biscoe. And Coach Laird had already bragged on him in the home and talked about, man, what a great relationship. So, you know, he texted me when he went home on Sunday. He said, Coach, you know, I was cemented. It was already done Tuesday when I left campus. And he didn't meet one single football coach, one single football player on his visit. It was the people that Coach Laird talked about that cemented and sealed that deal. And then Mr. Biscoe comes over this morning and actually shows me something, and he says, here, open this up. And it was a thank you note handwritten by Jaquan that he sent to him last week, thanking him for taking the time to spend time with him. So just another class young man that we're fired up to have here. It's going to be a great addition not only to our football program but to this campus and this community. Levante Gibson, I mean, honestly, guys, I got to think he's one of the top players in the state of Louisiana this year, coming out of Houghton. Plays defense, plays tailback. We'll go back and forth, you know, and argue about it when it comes time all said and done. He's listed as an athlete, but I get to talk about him. So, Coach Lucas, I'm winning. As far as what he's going to play on the offensive side of the ball, Levante is a special kid. He was the Player of the Year up there in that district, which includes, of course, Airline and Evangel and Houghton, that district up there. But he had a special year. He's already won 2 state championships on the 4x100 meter teams and the relays that he won as a sophomore. He was on the team as a sophomore and a junior. And he tells me they're going to win it again this year. So we've got a couple guys here already on the track team that he won a state title with. And they did a great job. That was a big part of it. Coach Heimerman, when I touched base with him, he got me in touch with a couple of those players, a couple of those guys on the track team, and they actually came over and met with him and talked about the process. Those guys did a great job. Of course, here's 2 kids, you know, here's kids that don't even play for us, you know, that were willing to jump in and help out because they'd love to bring him down here to Natchitoches and get him on campus with them. So apparently we have a lot of people from Houghton on this campus that I found out. Curtis Williams, call him Ball Like 6. That's his Twitter handle. Curtis is fun to watch and fun to be a part of an offense. He is not big by any means, but he is something else. He's explosive. He was the sophomore of the year in his district. He was the MVP as a junior and a senior at West Mesquite High. Curtis is a great kid who was awesome from the get-go. He had some other Division I stuff. He had visits set up. He set us on the first one because he said, Coach, I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. I live here in Mesquite now with my dad. My mom's still in my mom's still in New Orleans, and Natchitoches is right smack dab in the middle of the 2 of us. So I plan on coming there, and then I'll call up South Alabama, the rest of them, and cancel them because I'm going to commit. And I said, hey, man, I love your thinking. But, you know, he played tailback. He averaged 10-point-something yards per carry this year, which is pretty exciting, and he's on an offense that's loaded with talent. But 10 yards a carry, we're going to put him at slot receiver. We can put him in the backfield some, but we're going to use him as a slot in what we do in a spread-up tempo system. I think he'll be a guy compete for a lot of the stuff in the return duties as well, for punt return, kick return, because he's just got a lot of special attributes. Really quick, really slippery, and he's got a very good top end. He's also a track guy who probably will win district in the Open 1, and he's got a pretty strong 4x1 team at West Mesquite as well that he'll be a part of. Yeah, he can roll. He'll be fun. He's going to be fun. Here's another one that's going to be a lot of fun. Again, I told you we wanted to get more athletic. We wanted to get faster. Here's another one, Kobe McGee. You know, Kobe, we may not be talking about Kobe today if Kobe doesn't have a torn ACL as a junior and misses his entire junior season. You know, because the way the recruiting's gone today with that early signing period, most everybody was, you know, filling up and everything back a while back and getting everything done and signed and classes finished. So, you know, Kobe's a kid who's a 4'3", 40 guy. I think that he had about a relationship with Coach Slaughter down at working one of the combines, working at a camp somewhere down at LSU where he had bumped into him. But Kobe can fly, as you can see. He also tells me he's going to win the state championship here in the 100 meters. He tells me he's 10.5, so he's going to go 10.5, 10.6 this spring and win a state title. But he can absolutely roll. And, you know, Coach Heimer was good about visiting with him as well because I think he's another kid that may want to run track and do both when he's here. But Kobe's speed comes from an incredible family. He's an incredible young man. When I first met him and sat and talked to him in the school, some of the things that he said man, really strikes a chord. And I know because Coach Laird said the same thing after he met him and just like, man, I want to coach this kid. I want to be a part of this kid's life because he's something special, very mature about the way he handles his business and the way he took care of his family. Young brother and sister, and when mom and dad had some health issues, he stepped up to the plate, got a job, helped them, tutored them all night long, and stayed up helping his youngins, you know, little sisters and brothers with homework. So can't say enough about this young man just as a person and a football player. Jalen Willis, very similar story to Kobe. This guy, you know, Jalen tore his ACL, missed his entire junior season. You know, he's 6'3.5", pushing 6'4" with that hair, 6'6", but another class kid. You know, Coach Lucas has a relationship with his family. His father, James, was the James Willis that played at Auburn and played with the Philadelphia Eagles a long time in the NFL, and they had coached together at UL before Coach Willis went over to the Saints. And that's where he lives over in Mandeville. And I tell you what, he plays for this Lakeshore team that went all the way to state championship, lost a car in the state championship game. Big-time playmaker. He's very long, and he can run. He's got a really good top end. And, you know, because of the knee coming off of, you know, having his knee last year, and Dad didn't think he was ready to go hit the camp circuit, he was really an unknown. So I think we're, you know, really blessed to get a guy with his type of speed and his length, which is what we needed to do. So at the receiver position, we went into this deal saying we need to sign 3. We'll take a pure slot, we'll take a guy that can do both, and we need a pure long guy that can develop into that one-on-one matchup when guys want to play us man and load the box to stop the run. And so that's where Jalen comes in as one of our lengthy guys on the outside. Again, a tremendous upside just with what he brings to the table. But he can run. And he's long. So, and of course played for a winning program and a winning tradition. So it's always good to have winners. All these guys have come from winning programs. Next guy, Brody Griffin, big tight end, originally from Jeanerette, Louisiana. I have coached against Brody the last 2 seasons at New Mexico Military Institute. They are in our conference at Trinity Valley. So, you know, I've had a chance to see this guy for 2 years up close and in person, and, you know, they'd split him out wide and use him. I mean, he's a big guy, 6'4.5", pushing 6'5", 260, 265 pounds, and he runs well. Guy, you had to pick that clip, huh, guys? That was against us. So, But Brody, I think a big part of it, you know, Coach Fortner, who's the head football coach, is a good friend of mine, and just talked about how physical he is in the run game. And so he's not that typical big tight end that just want to run around, catch balls, and be pretty. He is put together. He's very physical. I love some of the stuff he can do as the point man in the run game, what he brings from the backfield in the run game. He is very physical, very tough. You know, being from Jeanerette, Louisiana, this was huge to get a chance to bring him home. And Mom came up for the visit. He's got a girlfriend at UL that's wanting to transfer anyway, and just to let you know. She was valedictorian of her class coming out of high school down there in Lafayette, so I think it'd be great if we can get her in here. But, you know, excited to have Brody. You know, he lives a different life because he's out there in military school. So this morning I'm calling him. He's like, Coach, sorry, I had formation at 6 a.m. He had his formation and breakfast and all these different things, PT, that he had to do before he could get his paperwork in and signed. But excited to have him, bring him back to the great state of Louisiana. Khalil Corbett, Canada, also played for us there at Trinity Valley last year as a true freshman. Started 10 games for us and was an all-conference performer. Played left tackle and right tackle. Khalil was a qualifier out of high school. This is one of those things that, my successor at Trinity Valley, I said, hey, I'm taking Khalil, just so you know. He could have come back and all this, but he was one of those too intriguing. He's long, he's 6'5", he can run, he's athletic. And so I think he's going to have a tremendous future. Great feet, moves well. He's through workouts right now. He's his first off season because he was a basketball guy. Coach Myatt is killing him right now. He's never had an off season, so he is finding out what work is really all about right now and what a college off season is all about. So, but he's a great kid, mom's super. So they came over and he signed in December as well. Has been on campus and is just fired up to be here and is having a really good time getting to know all the kids and just getting to know Natchitoches in Northwestern State. Elijah Hintz, that's Elijah. For those of you, I'm not even going to try the middle hyphenated part of it, but Elijah Hintz is another long tackle, 6'7". He's a big boy from Killeen High School in Killeen, Texas. Coach Pond, Coach Pond's got some buddies now. He got on the phone as soon as he got here and he started working the phones and one of his guys put him on him. And you see the size that Elijah has, and to me, he's 290 right now, 295. He's got a tremendous upside, but he's got the size right now and the body right now that if he has to play as a freshman, I think we can get away with it and get him out there. But I tell you what, once he gets in Coach Myatt's program, I think this guy's got a professional future one of these days. All of these guys, all three linemen, we signed 3 tackles. Felt like our roster, we had a lot of guards and inside bodies, center guards. There was already, I think, 4 guys on campus that can snap. So we just wanted to get longer and more athletic out there on the edge. So that's what we did with 2 6'5" tackles, and we'll talk about the other one in a minute, and a 6'7" kid. So I think these guys the weight room is going to be enormous for these guys, but I think they're going to be something special when it's all said and done. Next one we're talking about is Reggie Young. He's from Carr High School. His is a pretty incredible story. Another guy with a military background. Originally from New Orleans and born here, mom and dad. When Katrina came, they moved to Savannah, Georgia. So he's at Savannah, Georgia, and never played football. He's at Savannah, Georgia, at a military school playing baseball. He plays for one of the best select teams in the state of Georgia. So the next thing you know, Reggie then moved back last spring to New Orleans. So he's on a high-level travel baseball team, and he hadn't played football. And the offensive coordinator and O-line coach down at Carr says, "Hey, listen, we need a tackle. You want to come out and play football? We need you. We think we can win a state title." And he said, "Yes, sir, I'll do what I can." So he went from never playing a down to the starting left tackle, the state champions, Class 4A at Carr High School. And the offensive line coach just cannot say enough about his intelligence as a football player. And again, here's another guy without junior film, so we're fortunate enough with that we get a chance to pull this guy because he's physical, but at 6'5" plus, very athletic. He's built like the Big Hurt. That's what they call him, the Big Hurt, Frank Thomas. But a great baseball player as well. But he does, Coach Barbier, relax. He just wants to concentrate on one sport when he gets to college. That's what he said. So, he needs an off season. But, with Reggie, great family. I will always remember the shot of when Coach Laird hoops and hollers because he had committed to him, and we all run in the door to go shake hands and hug mamas and daddy's necks and welcome them all to the family. I think Dad sat there with his head in his lap for a good 2, 3, 4 minutes, just collecting himself, just, overwhelmed and overcome with joy and the thought that his son was getting this incredible opportunity and that he had found a place that he and Mama felt so comfortable with him being, and the coaching staff they felt like was really going to take great care of him as he grew up and matured. So as a football player, but just as a man and as a young man. So anyway, I tell you what, that's the offensive guys. We couldn't be more excited to have these. All of you, hopefully I'll see everybody out obviously this spring, and when spring ball starts, you come out and talk. You can always drop by the office. We'll shoot the breeze anytime. If you have some suggestions on play calls, bring them on. I'm very open-minded. So anyway, thank you guys for everything, and you guys have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Coach Smiley. I think one thing we can do is get a 4x1 relay team together on some of those guys, and that's one thing that we went out after. 11 great offensive guys. Now look forward to hearing about 14 outstanding defensive guys that we want to talk about. As I introduce the new defensive coordinator, spent a lot of years as a defensive coordinator at Sam Houston back in the 90s. Was the head coach at Southeastern Louisiana. I talked about 3 guys on staff with head coaching experience, him being one of them with a lot of success at Southeastern. Here in 2014 as a defensive coordinator, doing a great job, and leaving here going to Lafayette for the past several years. But introduce our defensive coordinator, Coach Mike Lucas.
It's great to be back. Great to see some faces here that I haven't seen in a while, and so excited. The college coaching profession is really tough nowadays. I think the average stay for a coach is 3 years, and it's really tough on family, tough on coaches. But when I got the call from Brad to come back to Natchitoches, I was excited. We made great friends here, love Natchitoches, and we're excited to get back, and excited to get this program going and continue with the tradition. I lined up at Turpin Stadium a whole bunch of times on the other side of the field, sometimes wearing orange, sometimes wearing green, and got my butt kicked several times. Pretty good. And I'm excited to be in the purple right now and take this thing where we need to go. We need to win some championships. We need to get in the playoffs. How about that? Huh? How about some FCS playoffs? Pretty quick here. Okay, for the defensive guys now, what I want to say, 2 words that every time we sit down with people that did the official visits, the families, the parents, 2 words. Number 1 was family. They see what Brad Laird is doing, and they see the family atmosphere, and they see the direction that he's taken this program. They can feel it. The second word they used was momentum. They felt the momentum from our president when he stood up and said, this is the direction this university's going. They felt the momentum from our athletic director and from our head football coach. We're going north, and we're going to win. And those families felt it, and the players felt it. And you get a little adrenaline going, get a little goosebumps on the back of your neck. That's what it's all about when it comes to recruiting. I got to say something about our staff. Our young guys that were here during the transition as Coach Laird was hiring the staff, they did a great job putting names together, researching players, and a lot of credit for this class goes to the young guys on this coaching staff. Okay, the first one we're going to start out now. We were looking for speed. We want to get to the quarterback as fast as we can. We got to get to the quarterback, and we got to play man coverage in the back end. And that's what we were looking for. So Javier Wade from Richwood High School is a 6'2" defensive end. Javier's got some unbelievable numbers. Now, I got a little cheat sheet here because I know stats are big for everybody, okay? So Javier, when you look, now Richwood went all the way to the state championship game for the first time in 44 years. He was named first team All-State. He had, listen to these numbers, 80 tackles, 25 tackles for losses, and 13 sacks. Unbelievable, okay? And also is a 3-time district champion in the discus. Now, what kind of athleticism do you need to throw the disc? So that's what you're looking at right here. When you watch him come off the edge, did you see him swarm at quarterback right there? I mean, he is quick. He's got great athleticism. See him come off the ball, turn that toe right there, and get to the quarterback. He's a long young man that's got a great future ahead of him as far as getting sacks, putting pressure on people. Tyree Cormier from Beaumont Westbrook. Y'all know the UFC fighter Daniel Cormier that's real popular from Louisiana. That's his cousin. Okay, so good bloodlines. Tyree is a defensive end that he's an Eagle Scout. Now, how hard is that to do? okay, and comes from a great family. His sister, Gwen, is a courtside dancer for the Houston Rockets. So, athletic family. But Tyree was a joy to recruit. He's a great young man. He's got a high grade point average, very good family, and we think that he has got a lot of growth potential to fill out and to really be a physical, maybe a 4-technique force, an inside player eventually. From Beaumont, Westbrook. His sophomore year of high school, he was MVP on his basketball team and has grown into being a football player. This year, he's not playing basketball. Jamard Valson, a.k.a. Smooth. Now, every year, you get a you get a character, okay? And this young man, now it went right down to the last minute with him this morning. He had a lot of stuff going on. His head high school coach is a good friend of mine at Port Arthur Memorial, whose son was playing quarterback for us, was a backup quarterback for us down at Lafayette. And he called me on the phone. He said, Coach, I want to help you get this young man because I believe in you and I believe in the program up there at Northwestern State. This young man, Coach Harrison said that first day he steps on your campus, he will be the meanest guy there. He can pass rush, and he has a bad attitude as far as coming after the quarterback. He is relentless. But now, he's a starter on the basketball team. Port Arthur Memorial is 26-5 right now and ranked 4th in the state in basketball. He's a starter on the basketball team. That's how athletic he is. And he's always got a smile on his face. He's jovial. He's laughing around. But when he puts his helmet on, that guy has a different mentality. I really like the way he plays. This is Nate. I'm not going to say that name. Nate is from Colleen Shoemaker. We signed 2 guys from Shoemaker. Everybody remember Roy Locks, who played here? Okay, Roy is the defensive coordinator at Shoemaker, and he helped us get these 2 young men. Nate was actually committed to Texas State for the entire football season and broke his foot late in the year, and Texas State dropped him right before the early signing date. And he's a very good physical defensive lineman from Samoa. His mother and father were married in Samoa. And I have found out through this recruiting process that the way that they get off the island is to join the U.S. military. So his mom and dad both joined the Army. And now they live in Killeen. His mother actually, when Nate was born, 4 months after he was born, was sent to Korea for a year. So that's the way their family is. They've got a fantastic, close-knit family, and this young man is a solid defensive lineman, about 270 pounds right now. Jalen Angel, if there's one we sweated to the end this morning when you heard the hooping and hollering in the field house, this is the one. Great job recruiting by Coach Lockett. This young man will be a linebacker that will play as a freshman. He had an unbelievable camp for me down at Lafayette. He was on every list that I had. When I left to come up here, the new staff decided they weren't going to roll on him. So it came down to us and McNeese. And McNeese pounded him all the way till this morning when he put his name on the dotted line. He is a phenomenal linebacker with a nose for the football from Karen Crowe High School. The young man can run, he's physical, and you can expect big things out of Jalen right away. He's strong enough to jump into the Southland Conference right now and play as a freshman. And we had multiple text messages going on this morning starting about 5 a.m. and I was finally tired of text messaging. My thumbs were cramping. And I called him and I said, listen, man, I'm done texting. I've been doing this 35 years. I ain't texting no more. I said, don't listen to all this junk McNeese is feeding you. You come play for me right now. Go to school, sign the stinking letter, and let's go to work. And that's what we got him with this morning. Bishop Bro. Bishop is a great young man now. I love Bishop Bro. Bishop has already got 12 hours here in a dual classes at Northwestern State. So he's already got 12 hours finished. He's got a 3.6 grade point average from Acadiana High School. And y'all know how good Acadiana is. Now, they played him as a defensive end with his hand on the ground. We're projecting him as a linebacker because I had him at camp and played him at linebacker at camp. And he does have the feet and the hips to be a linebacker. So I think that slowed down his recruiting process a little bit because everybody saw him as a hand-on-the-ground defensive end in high school. But he's a great kid, and he's expects to be in the high 21s this year in the 200 meters. So he can really run at 6'2". So we're going to play him at the linebacker position. Blake Stevenson. Blake played at Trinity Valley Junior College for Coach Smiley. Blake's from Deer Park High School in Houston. His senior year of high school, he had 150 tackles his senior year of high school. And his freshman year at Trinity Valley, I think he had 107 tackles. He is a true instinctive linebacker that has a real nose for the ball and is very physical at the point of attack. He's here now, was signed on the early date, and is already here going through spring football practice. Met with the linebackers the other night and sat down and talked with him. He said, Coach, I love it here. He says, I love this place. So he's going to make an immediate impact at linebacker for us. Quinn Whitley. Quinn is a transfer that is here also, was signed on the early signing date from community college, Holmes Community College in Mississippi. Quinn was a wide receiver in high school, and they moved him to linebacker when he got to the junior college. He's very, very athletic, can run, good grades, solid young man. We've got to, Coach Myatt has got to get him in the weight room and get him filled out and get his strength levels where they need to be able to play for us. But he's a very athletic young man. The coaches there at Holmes loved him. Very coachable, do anything he can do to help the team. As you can see, he can really run. Cedric Anderson. Cedric's from East Feliciana High School. His father is his head football coach. And this young man is a four-sport athlete. He's the president of the National Honor Society, president of his senior class, has a 4.2 grade point average, 3-year all-district basketball player. He ran on the track team and was a pitcher in baseball with phenomenal numbers as a pitcher. So a four-sport athlete. I actually got a text message yesterday from the head coach at Cornell that said, congratulations on getting Cedric. He was our top defensive back on our board at Cornell. So you know what kind of grades he has to be able to be an Ivy League guy. He's 6'3". He is long, and he's got the frame to be an NFL corner. He's not scared. He'll come up and hit you out of the secondary. And whenever you can get a coach's son, I've known his dad for a long time. His dad's a good man. Fred Lee. Fred is a defensive back that when I looked at on video, I said, wow, we got a chance to get this guy. He's from Rayville. Y'all know the program they have at Rayville is very successful, great tradition, and he will come up and hit you now. He can cover, he can hit. He's the total package at defensive back, and he'll be able to help us right away. He's big, strong, physical young man with a lot of tools. So you can see all the defensive backs we signed. We signed 5, 6 defensive backs. We really need some help there. And we wanted to take guys that you can see. There's a term out there now, people are talking about ball friendly. You don't want defensive backs who are just going to knock the ball down. You want guys that can intercept the football. And I think you guys can remember when we were here in 2014 where we had over 30 takeaways and we're, 4th or 5th in the nation in takeaways and had so many interceptions. We need defensive backs that are ball friendly, that when the ball's in the air, they can go catch it. And you can see these guys that we signed all are very ball friendly this year. William Hooper, again, one that's from Colleen Shoemaker that played for Coach Roy Locks. William actually had an offer from New Mexico State, took an official visit out there to Mexico State and did not like it, thought it was too far away from home and didn't like the atmosphere out there. And we got him in for an official visit and he committed. Just he and his mother at home. He is a true lockdown man coverage corner. He did not give up a touchdown pass all season and only averaged giving up 1 catch a game against him. And I had him at camp at UL, and he did a phenomenal job at camp. You can see him there in man coverage, how tight he is in man coverage. He's a very good player and a good young man, good grades. He was a real joy to recruit. His mother, again, there in Killeen, is right next to the Army base there in Texas, and his mother was in the Army and is now retired from the military. Shamar Bartholomew, again, a great job recruiting by Coach Lockett. This young man had a lot of offers, had a lot of stuff going on. Every weekend had visits out of Cypress Ranch High School. I think in 3 years, he was a varsity starter. They only lost 4 games in 3 years. He's a big-time player, hitter. Came down to the last minute on him, finding out where he was going to go because he had a lot of offers. His mother actually drove over last weekend and walked in, kind of surprised us, walked in and said, hey, I want to look around. She did not come on the official visit with him, but drove over from Houston last Saturday and looked around campus and really fell in love with the place. A young man that's a 3-year starter in a 6A program in Houston. That says a lot. Jordan Hester. Jordan is a phenomenal athlete now. Another one that you could argue could play either side of the football. He's from Shreveport Woodlawn. Had great numbers at wide receiver. He had SMU trip and then came to us the next weekend. You'll see him do a lot of different things with the football in his hand. Look how fast he is down that sideline. And he's another big, strong guy that can play right away. Don't look, Coach Smiley. Don't watch him catch that ball like it. You can see all these defensive backs we signed. Coach Lockett ran the tires off that vehicle he was driving to get to all these defensive backs, all the way from Houston to Rayville to Shreveport. Tobias Williams. Tobias is from Manny. Didn't have to go that far to get him, but a really good player. 2-time first-team All-State cornerback, and really nice young man. Very, very quiet, good grades. And one different thing about Tobias that you don't see very often, he's a 2-time letterman on the golf team. You usually don't see that combination. But a really good player, solid as a corner. Very good ball skills. Anytime you can get local guys, you can see this, as Coach Laird said, how many guys we signed from North Louisiana. We've got to get into Manny, because Manny will have players every year. That's it? Okay. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach. To say we're excited is an understatement, as you can tell. But one thing I want to mention before I dismiss you, you know, you look at a lot of the 25 that we talked about, but I want to talk about some of the alumni that are in some of those high schools, that kids that we signed that helped along with the process. You know, one of them is Kobe McGee from Airline High School, the receiver. His head coach, Bo Meeks, played here at Northwestern State. Manny High School, Coach just talked about Manny. Jess Curtis being from here. We talked about Roy Locks. You know, one thing, you know, talking about Jordan Hester, you never know what you do when it's going to make a difference. And I was in a meeting with Jordan Hester and his family, and his sister told this story. She said, you know, 4 years ago, I was at Byrd High School and got recruited by Dr. Maggio to come to Northwestern State to be in nursing. And Dr. Maggio is going to have to correct me, but now she's the president of the Student Nurses Association. That right there was very key to get Jordan Hester here, because the experience that she had in Natchitoches, the experience that she had at Northwestern State. So the people that we meet along the way, you never know whether today or 4 years from now when that's going to make a difference. But there's a lot of alumni that helped us throughout this situation. Speed, length, athletic. You look at those 25 guys, that's what we went after, and that's what we got. Excited about the future. Appreciate everyone coming out. Also, before you leave, I know Mike's selling season tickets. You see some of the guys that you're going to be able to see on Saturday. Go purchase your season tickets. And we look forward to seeing you spring ball, starting March the 2nd, to continue with the momentum and excitement that's going on here at Northwestern State. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Just as you're standing up, look in the back of the room again. Coach Jay Pond, would you raise your arm? We're renaming him Coach Ocean. He's bigger than a pond. Hey, thank y'all for being here.